Hello everyone, welcome and thank you for watching this presentation and video. I hope it's of some value to you. It's in a slightly tweaked format to the one that was built because we wanted to make it available to as wide an audience as possible. So without further ado, I'm going to share with you this presentation, which I shall talk you through. And at the end of the presentation, I'm going to endeavour to address your questions as best I can. So my name is Simon Lett, Principal of the College, and I'd like to introduce to you my colleagues on the senior team. Mo Bunter is Deputy Principal, John Blake, Director of Finance and Resources. Mark Mitchell and Tom Rowley are our Assistant Principals for Quality of Education, so they have a curriculum brief. Their job is to manage our heads of department, and then Kate Abel and Usman Anwar are Assistant Principals. Their job title, I think, is self-explanatory. Their job is to manage the pastoral programme in college and line manage our personal tutors and senior tutors. If you'd like to get hold of us, the best way of doing that is through email. So my email address is slett@greenhead.ac.uk. Mo's is mbunter@greenhead. So it's the initial of the forename, surname at Greenhead. So it's jblake@mmitchell@ etc. So please contact us via email. In terms of the ethos of the college, I'd like to remind you of that. And that's been our ethos for many decades now. Students are individuals, exceptions to be valued. It was relevant then, I'd say it's more pertinent now. I'd like to pay tribute to the current second years. They've been an absolutely amazing group. It's absolute pleasure and privilege to have them back in college. Wonderful to see them around the campus, to be in class again, in the main hall, in the library, in the study area. They've shown enormous fortitude and resilience, I think, in recent weeks and months. And I've been amazed about how well they have adapted to the changes we've had to make in college. So it's brilliant to have them back and to see them again. The student study programme consists of a number of things, most of which are compulsory for everybody, but there are some optional things as well. So the main component clearly are the students' A-levels. Most students are doing 3 subjects with a smaller number doing 4. Invariably, those are students doing maths and further maths and 2 other subjects. Wrapped around that are a number of other things. Tutorial is something that's compulsory for everybody. Everybody has to undertake that programme. The personal tutor is that student's key worker for the year ahead. The tutorial programme itself is extremely relevant in the second year because the focus is very much on progression and gearing the students to moving on from Greenhead to the next destination in their education and training. But the key focus of tutorial as well is ensuring students remain motivated, happy, content, and are progressing well in their A-levels and are on course to achieve really high standards in their A-level subjects. The extended project qualification is something that started towards the tail end of the first year and bridges both A1 and A2 years at Greenhead. It's an optional qualification. We have several hundred students undertaking it. It's worth an AS level and it has Ucas points attached to it, so it is regarded highly by many universities. It's a qualification that develops organisational skills, independence in learning and research skills. Very valuable qualification to have. That's taking place at the moment through sessions with supervisors, but it's essentially a qualification that's achieved through personal and independent study. Enrichment, as I'm sure you're aware, is going to start in earnest in January, all being well. We have got some enrichment activities taking place at the moment, some music ensembles, sporting activities, and of course the Duke of Edinburgh Award, but most activities will be from after Christmas. In terms of sporting fixtures, we're hoping that those will start after half term, particularly football. So we'll wait for more news on that as and when we receive it. So the timetable, as I'm sure you're aware, we've recently changed our timetable structure. I'd just like to explain to you the rationale for having to change the timetable matrix. When we completed our enrolment, we enrolled more students than we were envisaging. And I think we always knew that when the GCSE results became centre assessed grades, more students were likely to meet our entry requirements, which is what happened. So we enrolled about 100 more students than we would normally have enrolled. So we've got 1,300 students in the A1 year, 2,600 students in total in college. Because we had over-enrolment in a certain number of subjects, invariably STEM, physics, biology, chemistry, computer science, we decided to put on a 7th timetable block, that's G block, which you can see there on Tuesdays and on Thursday afternoons. We also decided to change the timetable structure because from a health and safety perspective, with the COVID restrictions, we wanted to reduce track time for students and to reduce footfall in college. Now, although we're only 3 days into this new structure, which started on Monday, you can already see a difference in terms of the number of students walking around corridors. In the main hall, it's significantly reduced, which I think has had a superb impact. So the new timetable structure has done what it is supposed to have done. What I'd like to draw your attention to is the fact that we will be putting on extra support for students, whether that be on an individual one-to-one basis or in small groups or in classes, for students to bridge the gap from last year to the A2 year and to ensure that curriculum content is reinforced and to ensure that students feel supported. It could take place in those support blocks, as you can see highlighted there, but it could be on any other point in the college day as well, providing, of course, the student is available. So be assured we're intending to put plentiful support available to students to ensure that they feel content, happy, reinforcing curriculum content, that they can keep on top of the work and they can progress and achieve high standards next summer. So to give you an example about what this timetable looks like, that's a student undertaking A-levels in biology, chemistry and psychology. The 2-hour lessons there taking place for biology Monday morning, Thursday mid-morning, chemistry mid-morning on a Monday, and then last thing on a Friday, psychology in the Monday afternoon and the Thursday morning. That's a good timetable. I mean, if somebody had that timetable in B, E and F blocks, that means that they wouldn't need to come in on Tuesday and Wednesday. And given that we recruit from a very wide catchment area, students coming from Bradford, from Barnsley, from Wakefield, from Leeds, that means it's going to have a significant impact in terms of use of personal transport, public transport rather. So I think that will play a big part in not only reducing footfall in college, but track time for students. We are finding that with a college of this size, invariably it won't work out as smoothly as you can see there for every single student. So for example, we're finding that for some students, perhaps they only have one thing on a particular day, which could be the tutorial. I'm just showing you that for illustrative purposes. I mean, that works out really well for that particular example student there. They have tutorial mid-morning on a Friday, and then they can do some private study before going into chemistry in the afternoon. Now, if it was to be the case that their tutorial was, say, mid-morning on a Wednesday, and that would be the only thing that they have to come in for, let's look at that. I can't sort of promise, but I have for 1 or 2 students already made some changes so that they don't have to come in just for that single 1-hour tutorial, and we can place that in another point in the week that's more conducive to what their timetable is in terms of their subjects. We would have to look at whether there is space available in another tutor's block. It might involve moving to another tutor, which has its disadvantages given the relationship that may have built up over the first year. But if it means public transport, not using that and having a clear day and not having to come in just for a single solitary hour, that might be more beneficial. So I'm more than willing to look at that where those problems exist. But I do want to re-emphasize that tutorial is extremely important. We do need students to attend that. As I said, the focus very much is on preparation for progression and ensuring students feel supported and guided and motivated throughout this critical year in their education. And of course, in January, hopefully that timetable model will be populated with enrichment sessions as well. Just some further things in terms of the study program, which I have reinforced to students in a recent assembly. And I think it would be good for you as parents and carers if you could reinforce this as well. One is attendance to all scheduled lessons. Obviously, at the moment, we have this timetable split, this alphabet split rather, and if we do need students there in scheduled lessons. And I've said to students, you know, attendance is key in this critical year, as is being on time. However, what I wanted to emphasize is that we're not in normal circumstances at the moment, and clearly there are going to be times when public transport could present itself as an issue, particularly being on time to period 1 or the first lesson in a given day. We will make allowances there, so don't worry if a student is running late because the bus has not turned up, or it's not on time, or it's too full and driven past. That's absolutely fine. We fully understand that, and we understand that in this year of all years we have to make allowances for that. Please can I ask your son and daughter to ensure that they've got all materials and equipment with them. Do ask them to keep an eye on their part-time work if they have a part-time job at the moment, so our recommendation is no more than 8 hours part-time work per week. In terms of completion for independent study tasks, we say that's 5 hours per subject per week. So in the week when they're in college, they should still be doing some work outside college time, not necessarily at home. It could be done here on the college site in a study period, in the library or in our study area or in the study centre. And then currently, in terms of the week when they're not in college, they will have plentiful activities, lots of things to be getting on with to keep them going for that week when they're not actually in college and on campus. So a strategy for success for the year ahead is that we're encouraging students to develop good study habits throughout this second year and encouraging them to go over their notes from the first year. So I've said to students in my recent assembly, make sure they've got their A1 work safe, that they dip into that and do regular revision from first year content. I would encourage them to use all resources and facilities in college, our library, our study area where there are PCs available, or our study centre, which I'll talk a bit more about in the next slide. The study periods, obviously it's not free time, so where there are study periods in the college day, I would encourage students to use those wisely. Don't see it as free time. Use the time productively by going over work, going to the library. There's always something a student can be doing, whether that's independent study, revision, homework, tasks, coursework, where applicable. There are going to be lots of help and support sessions throughout the year, particularly in that G block or in other blocks in the new college timetable. So I would encourage students to attend those when asked, please. They will be really important in terms of reinforcing content and making sure students feel supported. As I said, those support sessions could be in a small group basis, on a one-to-one basis, or an extra session for the whole class. So do listen to teachers and the personal tutor, do act on their advice. That's something that I think is a key message for the year ahead that I've imparted to students. And if you could reinforce that message as well, please, that would be hugely appreciated. In terms of support available, well, it stems from physical resources in college and human resources, so the teachers themselves and of course the personal tutor. Those are key avenues for support for the year ahead. There are subject support sessions, as I've just mentioned, which could be on a group and one-to-one basis, and there will be revision classes, master classes as well, to bridge content from March till now. Those are going to be taking place to ensure that your son, daughter feels supported in the year ahead. We've also introduced this time, for the first time, MAP weeks in college. That's mental and physical health weeks at designated points in the college calendar. The study centre is a very important resource in college. There are learning mentors there, and they can work with students on an individual basis to cultivate skills connected with time management, independence in learning, revision, essay writing. I worked with one particular student last year who was a little bit reticent to go to the study centre at first. When she went to get advice on time management, it completely transformed the way she looked at her A-levels. So I would encourage students to take advantage of that very important resource in college. Do make them aware of the study centre. They can talk to their personal tutor in terms of getting further information about how they can get an appointment with a learning mentor. There's the study area for private study, use of PCs, study periods, as I've said, the library, and of course our team of counsellors. They're available to provide support whenever students need it. So there are lots of avenues for support in this critical year ahead. With regard to teaching and learning, as you know, we're currently continuing with this blended approach, and its surnames A to K, L to Z. There is live streaming of lessons and setting of tasks that can be completed remotely at home, and I'm going to come to that when I come to the questions section of this presentation at the end to give you a bit further information on remote learning, online tasks and live streaming, and what the college's approach is with regard to that. You can be assured of regular assessment of work. There will be test results, monitoring grades, which are available for you to see on CEDA as this year continues. Support on our Moodle, as I've mentioned, that critical G block and other department support sessions, which we see as being absolutely instrumental in ensuring that students feel supported in this year ahead. There's ongoing staff training with regard to IT. Last year, as you'll be aware, Zoom was our main platform, and we're going to transition, or have been transitioning, to the use of Microsoft Teams, and that started from this year in earnest. Some key dates coming up in respect of teaching and learning. As you'll know, we have progress assessment weeks starting shortly for particular parts of the alphabet. Next week is the progress assessment starting on the 5th, and then on the 12th for the other half of the alphabet. We have mock exams as well. The dates for those are the 22nd to the 26th of February 2021, and we have parents' evenings taking place in November. What you need to hear from me is that those parents' evenings will take place in one format or another. As I previously mentioned, our intention is to hold those face-to-face physically. That was what was billed. If we can do that, that would be great. But obviously, given the restrictions at the moment, there's a question mark about whether we can do that. But we will hold some form of parents' evening remotely if that is not the case. So parents' evenings, we think, are critical going ahead, given that it will be some time since there's been a formal parents' evening. But what I would also say, if at any stage as parents you want an update as regards your son or daughter's progress, could you please let us know? The personal tutor is the best person to contact there, or you can contact a person in the senior team. We are more than happy to give you an appraisal of your son, daughter's current progress, which can be collected from teachers and from the tutor. So if that involves teachers giving you a ring to give you an update, or the tutor, or both, that's something that we can arrange. So you don't necessarily need to wait till November. So do let us know if there's anything we can do in terms of giving you an update in terms of your child's progress. So just a bit more on the role of the personal tutor, because I do want to emphasize this. The tutor is an absolutely critical person in this key year ahead. The tutor's role is twofold. It's to cultivate personal and social development and to promote academic achievement. So it's got a twofold curriculum and pastoral focus. We see this person as being key in terms of monitoring how students are getting on across their 3 or 4 A-level subjects, monitoring their progress because they have the holistic overview of how progress is going, but also it's there for emotional support and pastoral development as well. So it's got a twofold role. This is someone who will continuously build self-esteem, self-confidence in each individual student. So it's a very important role in this year ahead. I guess the key part of the tutor's role in the A2 year is to provide guidance on options post Greenhead College, and that's something that they have been doing and will continue to do. If there's any concerns, questions you have about university options, apprenticeships, employment, the tutor is your first port of call, or you could contact the careers department. That's available for students on an ongoing basis. Anybody wants a careers appointment, we can arrange that for students. And any queries you've got from a careers nature, you may wish to give them an email as well. They have their own designated email address, careers@greenhead.ac.uk, or you can contact the personal tutor, as I've said. So any careers guidance questions you have, there's always someone in college that we can direct you to get the answers that you need. So in terms of UCAS specifically, I know not everybody is going to progress to university at the end of this second year. The majority of our students will progress to higher education, and this half term, tutors are of course having one-to-one meetings. That's to discuss principally the Ucas application, personal statements, predictive grades. So students have registered for Ucas already. They were provided with support booklets which gave them information in terms of writing personal statements. If there's any support that students need in terms of the personal statement, the tutor is the first port of call. If you have any concerns about that, do email Kate Abel or Usman Anwar from the senior leadership team, our assistant principals for student support and welfare, and they'll also address any questions you have with regard to UCAS and progression to higher education. Relevant information for students is on Moodle. So in terms of key dates for 2021 entry, the internal deadline for submission for completed Oxbridge forms, that's also for vet science, dentistry, etc. 1st of October. 15th of October is the UCAS deadline, and that's at 6 p.m. in the evening. Final deadline for all other applications to reach UCAS is the 15th of January. To re-emphasize again, any queries, concerns you have about UCAS, the tutor is the first port of call, or if you wish to contact Kate Abel or Usman Anwar, please do so, or if you require further specific questions, our careers department. In terms of apprenticeships, there are some useful websites that I'm providing for you there. We do advertise apprenticeships in college. We cover apprenticeships and employment routes in the tutorial program specifically, but we also have Susan Stewart, who's our CK Careers Advisor, who's based in college, and she can offer expert knowledge and advice on apprenticeships, and she can be contactable for a one-to-one appointment or any advice and guidance you need if that is your child's destination post-Greenhead. Just some reminders with regard to COVID then. If I could encourage your son and daughter to regularly wash their hands, use hand sanitizer when they come into college, when they go into class, when they leave college. The advice on face masks is advice that we've taken from the DfE. Given that we've got local restrictions at the moment, we are continuing to ask students to wear them in communal areas of the college and in corridors. If they wish to wear one in class, that's absolutely fine for them. There's no mandatory guidance to wear face covering in classes at the moment. If that changes, I will of course let you know. Just with regard to the rule of 6, if you could encourage your son and daughter when they come up to college, when they leave college, not to congregate in groups of more than 6, please. Social distancing is something that we're keeping an eye on the college site. In terms of being in town, using public transport, Greenhead Park, if I could ask you please just to reinforce that message in terms of social distancing, and that's something that we'd like them to do outside of college, as also when they're in the college campus as well. So what happens next? Well, do talk to your son and daughter's personal tutor if you have any immediate concerns, or you can contact a member of the senior team. And that leads us now to the final part of this presentation, which is the questions that we asked you to provide. I've had quite a number of questions, as you can imagine. A number of these coalesce around particular themes. So what I've done is I've taken the common themes and tried to address these. So with this first one, for example, we may have had several questions relating to this, and rather than go through every single one, this is a common question, and I'll talk you through each one. The first one concerns the triggers that the college will use to facilitate a full return of students, which I think is a very good and interesting question. Essentially, it's there is no mandatory guidance from the DfE that says if it's like this, you have to do that. It's very much at the college's discretion. The guidance that was issued by the DfE in late August did make reference to the fact that depending on the conditions of the FE provider, a blended model of remote delivery and live lessons in college could be appropriate, particularly in areas of local lockdown. Our key trigger, however, is the local situation in Kirklees and Calderdale, and particularly the number of confirmed cases and any change in the weekly rate. Just to give you the most up-to-date figure that was published on the 25th of September, 392 cases, and that was up 20.2%. So I think that plus any easing of local restrictions would be a key trigger for us in terms of facilitating a full return or any change to our current model. We're also cognizant of the national context, perhaps a little bit less so than the local one, but I think we also have to keep an eye on what's happening locally, particularly everything we keep hearing about the threat level and the scientific advisors saying that cases are high or rising exponentially. Just to cover some further things as well, and I've mentioned these in email correspondence that I've sent to you. The constraints of the Greenhead site, I know many of you, if not all of you, will have been to Greenhead College, either for parents' evenings or open events. It's a very tight, compact site, parts of which are relatively modern. Many parts are old. The main building is over 100 years old. And that, I think, places constraints on us compared to other local providers. So that is also a consideration. Student numbers, as I've said, we're the biggest that we've ever been, 2,600 students, having recruited 100 more than we were originally envisaging. That is a lot of students on what is a tight, constrained campus. So that also led us to take the action that we did in respect of the new timetable model and the alphabet split. I would imagine that a number of school sixth forms can probably operate as normal, because in a school context you can operate year group bubbles, and in a school sixth form you would have a discrete bubble in your sixth form which may have 300 students in it, which is something that is eminently doable for a school sixth form, but not for Greenhead College, where we have 1,300 students in our first year and 2,600 en masse. In terms of other sixth form colleges, we're part of a group called Norvic, which is a group of sixth form colleges in Yorkshire and the Humber. I do note that at the beginning of the year, in early September, there were a number that did bring all students back en masse. The last meeting that we attended of that group last week, I do know that many, if not all, colleges are having to row back somewhat on what they originally started to do at the beginning of the year, and are making adaptations either to their timetable block or moving to a blended stroke remote form of delivery as we are. But to re-emphasize that last bullet point there, the new timetable, I think, is absolutely instrumental in ensuring that there's less track time and less footfall in college to keep everybody safe. And the use of those support blocks are absolutely key to ensure that students feel guided, feel supported. We can reinforce curriculum content, and students don't miss what they need to get to be able to cope with exams next summer. There'll be a bit more on exams a bit later on. So the next question is, will live streaming be available in all lessons? We started a pilot scheme in the summer when we started to bring students back in June and July with a small number of departments, and our original plan, it was envisaged to roll that out with a range of home stroke independent learning activities. Given that the tighter lockdown restrictions happened, I think, a lot earlier than we were anticipating, and to be honest with you, as I've said in my emails to you, we were envisaging a full return of students by the 28th of September. We deliberately took a cautious approach because we knew there were areas of Kirklees and Calderdale with local restrictions in place. We were hoping to bring everybody back in late September. I wasn't anticipating the situation to get as bad as it has been locally and also nationally. In my own mind, and you know, I don't talk as a COVID expert here, I'm not a scientist, but in my own mind, I'd envisaged that the situation to do with COVID would probably deteriorate much later in the winter, around about December, January time. So I wasn't expecting to be in this position now with these more severe restrictions at this point in the academic year, which means we've had to accelerate our plans. We're working to ensure that we can live stream in most cases. There are some departments that they feel and we feel won't work as effectively. It's worth me mentioning as well that when we surveyed certain subjects, and one of our biggest subjects in college, made available to the senior team the outcomes of a survey that they've just undertaken, and live streaming is something that is enjoyed by a great many students, but not all. There are some that like to access pre-recorded video content. So what we're intending to do, where live streaming won't work in all cases, is that there will be other remote stroke online resources available, such as pre-recorded videos. However, the key, and I think this is one of our key areas of learning from the lockdown from March, April, May, is that that face-to-face interaction is absolutely imperative. So whether that be through live streaming or whether it be a one-to-one meeting through Teams or a small group meeting through Teams, that is absolutely imperative, because it's that sort of human face-to-face interaction that we know that you as parents and our students do enjoy and feel is imperative going forward. So whilst I can't say that live streaming will be in case with absolutely every single subject, we will move to as common approach as we can. There will be other remote stroke online resources available, but whatever happens, it will be supplemented with face-to-face interaction through Teams, through other means. And that's what we're working on at the moment. And I've just come from a senior team meeting, and I think what we've agreed that what would be a good idea as well is that when we have our plans finalised, we share those with you as parents and carers so that you can see what our plans are in each subject, both in terms of what subjects are going to be doing in the week when students are not in class, and also if we have to go into a full lockdown, which I really do hope we don't, but we have to plan for that in case it happens. So that's also part of our planning too. I would ask you please to talk to us if IT is a problem. I know there are some IT access issues for certain students and families. We do have some spare laptops in college which we can loan to you should that be needed. If you have broadband issues, do talk to us as well. There is something that we may be able to do to help you there in terms of getting you access to a better performing package. I better choose my words carefully here, because I can't promise improved broadband for every single family or every single student that attends college. But where your location or whatever factors that you have at home, if broadband is an issue, can you let us know? And we will work with you to see if there's something that we can do to help you. So will surnames L to Z be disadvantaged in their progress assessments? No, we don't think they will be disadvantaged, because the key thing to remember is that the progress assessments aren't going to cover any of the work that's been done in these last few weeks. It will test first year content only. The assessments have been adapted so that we're going to use multiple questions for both cohorts. So that will eliminate students cross-referencing questions and answers. So there is viability there in terms of the progress assessments. They'll then be standardized by departments. We'll clearly make marking a priority for early Ucas applicants. We had a couple of questions on EPQ. One in terms of the validity of the qualification and how the predicted grade was derived, or is going to be derived rather. So it's not a qualification that students should take lightly. It is a work commitment and an investment in time, but it is a very rewarding qualification. I'm speaking as an EPQ supervisor, and I've seen what a difference that qualification can make to students' A-levels, because in the qualification they cultivate skills connected with individual research, independence in learning, and that has a knock-on effect and impact on their actual A-levels. So it is an extremely beneficial qualification to have. It's the equivalent of an AS level. There are Ucas points that are attached to the qualification, and it is fair to say that EPQ is looked on favourably by a great many universities. In terms of progression to higher education, it's worth looking at specific universities that your son, daughter is intending to apply to, and whether they factor in the EPQ in terms of any potential offer they may make. So what I'm saying there is it's certainly a very valuable qualification. It's an extremely important part of our work. The standards that the students achieve are absolutely superb. We always, year on year, get many high grades, A stars, A's, B's, but obviously the student's decision. It is an investment in time. The predicted grade, obviously it's an unusual circumstance because it's not a taught subject in the conventional sense, and our interaction with students so far has been through Zoom meetings in May, June time, and individual research that the student has been taking independently. So to derive the predicted grade, the fairest way, I think, is just to simply use the highest from their other A-level subjects. So if a student's predicted grades are A, B, B, we'd go with A for the predicted grade for EPQ. BBC, therefore it's B. BCC, it would be, there's a typo there, BCC would be B, not C. So it's the highest of their predicted grades. Apologies for that typo there. So ABB means we go for the A for the predicted grade for EPQ. And that leads us on to predicted grades, because there are a number of questions to do with this. Will students get lower predicted grades than normal? And so I think where parents are coming from there is because of the disruption last year, will we be making lower predicted grades than normal? There's certainly no evidence of that. The evidence so far is that our predicted grades are certainly no lower compared to previous years. The way the predicted grade is derived, it involves looking back and looking forward. So that involves looking back at prior attainment in terms of the A1 year and GCSE, attendance in the A1 year up until March, progress in homework, progress in assessments, behaviour, commitment, activities such as extracurricular work, and also looking forward. So it's a professional judgment by the teacher based on the knowledge they have of the student, based on their expert knowledge of the specification and the exam. And I suppose two key questions there. What might the student achieve? What can the student achieve? So clearly, in terms of looking back, if the prior attainment throughout the year has been C/D, well, it'd be pretty unrealistic to have a progress assessment grade, sorry, a predicted grade rather, not a progress assessment grade, a predicted grade of an A. I think that would be sort of relatively self-explanatory, really. If you've got a CD profile, that doesn't necessarily mean that it should be that highest achievement of an A grade. If we're seeing in previous evidence B/A's, well, yeah, I mean, that certainly gives us comfort, doesn't it, that the student might achieve an A. And that's what we do, really. It's based on the expert professional judgment of the teacher, looking back and looking forward. There was a separate set of questions about the progress assessments and the part played by those in deriving the predicted grade. Well, they are an important component, clearly, and they will impact on predicted grades, but they're not the sole component used to derive them. And I think the key message there is that the student's predicted grade won't be lowered because of any result that they get in their progress assessment, whatever the subject. So be assured on that one. So it's holistic. We're looking at as wide an evidence base as we can. Progress assessment's clearly important, but not the sole component used to derive them. And of course, we can review predicted grades later in the term. And obviously that is not something that we can do for early applicants because their application will go off quite shortly. But for other applicants, we can certainly review predicted grades as the term continues. What do we do if you want to discuss a predicted grade? That was a common question, actually, and it might be useful to look at our predicted grades policy, which is on our website. The predicted grades themselves, by now, students may have had them. They're being distributed by personal tutors in one-to-one meetings, tail end of last week, this week, and next week. You as parents and carers will be able to see those on CEDA. The next step would be to discuss any queries that you have with the personal tutor, because the tutor, of course, has the holistic overview of the student's performance in their 3 A levels, and with teachers as well, which could be a number of teachers or one specific teacher. If it's a query you've got about a particular predicted grade in a particular subject, there is still time to do that, of course, for early applicants, and plenty of time for other applicants as well. Our predicted grade policy is something that I would direct you to have a look at. It's on our website in the policies section. That will give you further information about what we use to derive predicted grades and what you should do if you have queries or concerns. I would encourage all students to send their personal statement to the tutor. So Those students who are not early applicants, who are perhaps intending to apply a little bit later in the autumn, my advice and guidance there is don't delay, be proactive, get the personal statement, engage the tutor with that so that that person can look at drafts and offer guidance and support. The application for early applicants needs to be by Ucas by 6 p.m. on the 15th of October. I was asked whether we could liaise with Ucas to be flexible with that date, but unfortunately we can't. It's a date that's set in stone, I'm afraid, and we can't move that particular date. Will competition for university places in 2021 be tougher? I think that is a possibility. It would depend clearly on the course itself and the particular university. Our experience of August, when students got their grades through centre assessed grades, is that many universities didn't allow students to hold their place until 2022, which is why some students are having to reapply. Obviously, those students who, when they applied last year, specifically stated that they wanted to defer, that wasn't a problem. I think that's been honoured. But students who, for whatever reason, are having to take exams in autumn or next summer, or having to reapply, our experience showed that in many, but not all cases, many universities didn't allow students to hold that place. But it does depend on the course and the university. So my advice there is to speak to the careers department for specific information. As I said, careers appointments for students are already available. And there's an associated question here, which is how amenable were universities this summer to students who asked to defer their place? Well, it was a mixed economy, frankly. There were some universities who were and some which were not. And again, I think it boils down to the university and the particular course. So I would speak to the careers department if you've got a specific query in relation to that. As I said, universities did honour those places for students who had already said that they wanted to defer their entry to 2022, but of course some students are having to reapply. There was a question with regard to one parent's daughter needing to apply to universities before her gap year. I'm conscious this might be something that affects a number of students. I think it depends really on the student's choice. If a student is intending to take a gap year, they could apply now and defer the entry to 2022. Alternatively, if they don't wish to apply on this occasion, they could, once college is finished and they've taken their A-levels and got their results, they can apply next year, and it's simply a case of getting in touch with the personal tutor and we'll complete the reference, and in many cases just a case of tweaking the reference. If the personal tutor isn't available, no longer works at Greenhead, then it's Kate Abel, Osman Anwar, our assistant principals for student support and welfare, who can help with that. So I think it really boils down to the student's choice. And then this quick question, I wish I had the answer to this one. Will exams take place in summer 2021? Well, it's very difficult to say with absolute certainty. What I can say is that the exams are scheduled to take place because our exams manager has a schedule of all the exams that are traditionally meant to run are down to run next summer. What we don't have are the dates, which we think will be published a little bit later in the autumn. There is strong evidence that I think the start date for exams will be a little bit later in June. Whether that will have any impact on results day, I know not at this particular stage. I think it would be really good if those exams did start later in June, because it means that we can maximise as much teaching time as possible. I suspect that there will be strong pressure, political pressure, for exams to run next year, given what happened in the summer. I can't rule out centre assessed grades again. If centre assessed grades did run for a second year, then I would certainly hope that they run in a way that prohibits the fiasco, frankly, that happened in August happening again. But at the moment, I think there's certainly strong pressure and will be strong pressure for exams to run next year. I wish I could give a more certain answer on that one. As soon as we've got the dates, we'll let you know. And then finally, there was a series of questions actually about support for former students. These are parents who've got sons, daughters, either in the A1 year or A2 year, and their son, daughter was in our cohort that left in the summer. What support is available for them taking exams in the autumn or next summer? But in terms of the autumn exams, resources on Moodle have been made available, and do email the teachers or the tutor with any queries that you may have with that one. There was a specific query about Ucas Reapplications. I just want to clarify here that we use the predicted grades from the student's original application as the predicted grades for the new application. We don't use the centre assessed grades. So it's the original predicted grades. Naturally, the students will need to declare their A-level grade, stroke centre assessed grade on the application form itself. But in terms of what we use, it's the predicted grades. We always write a positive reference. I would encourage students who left us last year to keep in touch with us. If there are any queries or concerns they have, do let me, the senior team, or the previous tutor know. We'll help in any way that we can. I recognise that for that particular year group, the way the A-level results was handled nationally, through no fault of the college, it was a demanding, challenging time for them. And you know, I do take the point that whilst our focus clearly has to be on our current A1s and A2s, this is a year group that we don't want to see left behind. We'll do whatever we can, and you know, support will be available for those particular students. So thanks for watching the information video. I hope that was of some use to you, and I hope I've addressed your questions. If there are any other questions that you have, drop me a line, or anyone else in the senior team, or your personal, or the student's personal tutor. And I always see this, I say this to any parent, any student, what we have ahead of us in this year is a three-way partnership. I always think it works best when, and students do their best, when this three-way partnership works between yourselves as parents and carers, us as the college, and the student. This year is going to be more challenging than any other year, undoubtedly, because of the local and the national restrictions that we are facing. We are working very hard in challenging circumstances to do our best by students. What you can be assured from us is that we are going to go flat out to support your son and daughter in the year ahead. And to finally, if I can say, and to re-emphasize this point again, just to pay tribute to them really. They've been an absolutely superb year group. Again, I've just been absolutely amazed by how well they've adapted to the challenging circumstances that they face and the new ways of working that we have in college. Talking to the GCSA, the Student Executive Committee yesterday, they seemed to think that things were working well, but clearly we have got to work very hard to make sure that all students feel supported in the year ahead. And to do that, I think we need to talk to them, we need to look out for them, we need to support them. And I would encourage them, please, if you can impart this message to them, they should contact us. Any concerns they have, do talk to us, and we will work flat out to put them right. And I suppose that goes for you as well, for parents, as parents and carers. If there's any queries, concerns that you have, let's keep that dialogue going, and we can work through this, and then your son and daughter can progress to what I'm sure will be a marvellous destination at the end of their A-level course. Thank you for watching. I hope that's been of value, and I hope before the end of the academic year I can see you in person once again. That would be really good if I could do that. Thanks for listening, everyone. Thank you.